Talk about dark skin, light skin, what is and what ain't within, but we overlook it all for the booty. You see, the physical has no bearing on the elegance and grace of the spiritual and mental one that's inside you, that creates the only one of you that it takes millions to make. I'm talking black and light, not white, the substance of nothingness, a blank page of anger and rage, giving you the belief of death, not rest. Life is a cipher, a circle that never ends, passing by trends and fads of trends, only to come black again. Of truth, justice, and freedom. None of that is possible without unity. The you and I self, transit of you, the inner scope of self-love and hate. Travel away from the lies on the surface to keep from the unjust or ingesting their truth of their perception. The gods and goddesses are in we trust. Everything you hear, smell, and see is creator he. Everything you feel, learn, and touch is creation she. Does that make us gods as we go on debating the source of the we and the he and she? I am that I am. The truth is something found in what others want you to see and believe. Live to be real. Reality. Believe.
Yeah, ATLWebRadio.com. It's yours truly, the Cyber DJ CK, back at you with my main man Mike Cypher
in the house. What's happening, y'all?
Oh man, it's been another one of them weeks, brother.
No doubt.
Oh man, I'm gonna let you open it up, man.
Well, like you said, man, it's just steadily getting worse and worse and worse. No matter how much we protest, no matter what we say and do, to try to maintain some humility, some peace, some type of mindset of working with a system that don't want to work with us. It seemed like the more that we try to change from a standpoint of doing it in a just and legal and manner of, like I said, being humble and just taking our steps and strides, the more that they come after us, the more that they show that this is really not about righteousness or justice. This is more about really, in my opinion, getting to a point where they trying to open up the door to create a situation to where we are inevitably shackled. So we have to really, really, really do our diligence. We have to really start amping up the things that we do to secure ourselves in one form or fashion or another, which really means we have to start educating ourselves. First and foremost, we have to research. We have to educate ourselves about internally what the system is about and what it's doing to us, what it has been doing to us for eons. We have to step up to the plate. Not only educate ourselves, we have to educate our children in not only the ways of protecting themselves when they're out there on the streets dealing with the police or whatever. We also have to get them to protect their spirits and souls through knowing how to maneuver on a level that is beyond just the physical realm. And it's a lot of this, although we really don't think or understand, and overstand, all coincides with knowing oneself. We really don't look from an aspect of internal and really knowing what represents us and what we represent. So we really got to do our diligence, man. We really got to not only stand up, but we got to stand out. We got to push the limits and push the bar, raise the bar and make them not only hear us and see us, but we got to make them move. We got to make them adjust. We got to do it first and foremost with education. Now, I'm not much on the voting processes because they really hadn't proven to do anything positive for us as a community. But if you are into that, and if at any other time in history, for someone to get into it and make a difference or try to make a difference and see a possibility of changing, now is the time. If you're going to get into the voting situation and voting processes, now is the time. But I would also suggest, if that's the case, then make sure that you do it from the aspect of knowing who represents you locally. Because the thing about that is, if you can choose those that are affecting your community locally, then you have a better foundation and a base to get the things in your community that you need, want, desire, and the help of having people in places that look like you, who think like you, who behave and have the same love for the people that you have the same love for. And basically what we're speaking about is, again, another brother being victimized by the police. This brother in Wisconsin shot 7-8 times in his back while not necessarily trying to be non-confrontational. If you look at the video, if you've seen the video, you've seen this brother trying to be non-confrontational and walk away from them trying to actually rile him up to make a move to where they could shoot him and say that he was causing a confrontation. This brother turned and walked away. This cop was close enough to where he grabbed the brother's t-shirt. If he grabbed his brother's t-shirt, he could have grabbed him by the shoulder. He could have grabbed his arm. He could have did anything and put him in head. He could have did any of that. He grabbed his brother's t-shirt, man, and shot him in his back while getting in his car 8 times in front of his children. This is senseless. This is out and out targeting. Another instance I was made aware of in, I believe, either Virginia, North Carolina, somewhere. They newly elected a police chief, a sheriff, or something of that manner, and it's a black man. Okay, lo and behold, some of these veterans, redneck veterans that had been on the force for years before this brother got elected, was caught on camera talking about how when they re-elect this fool that's in office now, how their mandate, they'll be glad when he get reelected so they can start a race war, so they can start picking these niggas off and really.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, they had arrested this sister, or had a situation with this sister up there, and I believe they arrested her, took her into custody or whatnot, and this same cop was talking about he should have just killed the nigga bitch and put her out of her misery and put them in a situation where they just got rid of one more nigga that they didn't want around no way. I mean, he was talking this crap, you know, he's talking this garbage, man, towards us. And like the brother I was speaking to said, he's been on the force for over 25 years, man. How many more cops are on that same force with that same mentality doing the same things? How many brothers and sisters have they killed and dumped in a in a gully somewhere and blamed it on somebody else? You know, just because they was hunting niggas. This is just one city in America, man. Just as one city in America. So we really have to get to a point where we understand what's going on. Not only we understand, but we galvanize and we put ourselves in a place of practicing how to protect ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, in a whole nine. Because things are not getting better, and they're not going to get better until we get to a point where we subject ourselves to one another and the love of one another to protect and serve one another.
Just the story of that force of police in whatever town, USA, it's breathtaking. It's in a very, very harsh and negative way.
It is.
It just truly denotes the amount of fear that exists amongst the European or Caucasian race here in America when it comes to black people and other minorities. And I say it outlines the fear because that's the only reason why people would act in a manner in which these people have continued to act, and as well the way
Most
that
definitely.
have put these things that we're going to be talking about today secretly in place in order for them to be able to covertly attack an unknowing people.
Right.
And that's why I say these people work from a serious point of fear, and it's just really their fear is scary to me.
And it's crazy that it's that way, brother, because their fear is the main reason that they instill fear in us.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, from the aspect that when we know better, we should do better. And now
It's just a really rough, vicious cycle at this point.
Yeah, man. And it's not like we don't understand or we don't know or we haven't been, it's not like there's not enough information out there now to we know the motion and the movement behind their thought processes.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
in front of their thought processes. Right. So therefore we know that in an existence, when you talk about so much time of being on this earth, so little time of being on this earth, but ruling and destroying and doing the things that they've done since they started their existence to what they doing now. Mm-hmm. Don't you know that they know just as much about their time being limited than we do?
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that we don't educate ourselves to whom we face and deal with it accordingly? If you only have a certain amount of time and they only have a certain amount of time to rule, that doesn't mean for us to just sit back and rest on our laurels and wait on time, because at a certain point in time, all the poisons, all the things that they've done to really destroy and destruct this environment of living, whether it be environmentally, whether it be personally as far as physical, teaching, a lack of education. All these things are done for a purpose of outlasting the time limit that they have. So we got to move in motion to make sure that we're educated enough to be able to combat their motion.
Absolutely.
We got to raise our level of self-awareness. And I think that's where it starts, educating ourselves on who we really are and whom and what we represent, from the aspects of all realms, not just this physical realm, but all realms. Because life is for the living, man.
Absolutely.
And living is what makes life worthy of eternity.
Absolutely. I think that at this point it is, I think it's detrimental that we share some of this information that yourself and Sister M Squared have come up with, just to further, let's say, hip the listening audience to what to be aware of at this point in time.
No doubt.
Some of the stuff to be on the lookout for, and that being on the lookout, also really utilizing, the tool between your two soldiers to, make some moves that will bring about some uniformity, that will bring about some solidarity, and that will bring about a serious need for action.
Absolutely.
I think by the time we get finished with the information, just by what I got over here on my side, so
hopefully we can bring some clarity, man, and open up some eyes to the point of starting to do their own study and research and galvanizing their own motion. I mean, everybody's not going to be down. Everybody's not going to be able to relinquish their fear enough to be willing to fight and sacrifice and, at the end of the day, be willing to give their lives for what we are giving our lives for every day anyway.
Right. So, I guess I'll go ahead and open this up, brother.
No doubt.
Today's point of discussion is going to be some of the laws that govern nautical issues and private maritime disputes. Basically, if I'm correct, this is basically what the Navy would rule on utilizing when it comes to the waters.
Well, the thing that got me interested in this, brother, was when I really first got into trying to get more into knowing my existence. We hear these different rules and laws of nature and aspects of being and so forth. And some of the cats and sisters and brothers that I listened to who taught me, a great deal, would speak of rule of law. And you would hear this term a lot, especially in TV and movies and things of that. Well, they kick these things out there knowing that the masses of us really don't understand what they mean. So in some lectures, I kept hearing that we're under maritime law. Okay. Now, before we were under this law, before we were under that law, now we're under maritime law. And so I kept trying to find out, well, how does that change, or why does it change, and what is maritime law?
Okay.
And that's where this inquiry really came from. And maritime law is also called admiralty law, and it's an umbrella. It's an umbrella term for the law that regulates navigation, commercial shipping, and related activities. So these are laws that really, like you said, are naval oversights, or overseen by the Navy, basically, which is a military functionality. They govern things that happen to people who work on the oceans in these ships, and things of that nature. So if you get injured while you're working on sea, then you have some recourse as far as for your family insurance, workers' comps, and things of this nature. This is the overview of what the research shows and says how this law became functionable way back in, I believe, 1756 or something like that. Thinking a little further into that, I was wondering, well, if maritime law is basically a military law, and we are functioning under maritime law, how does that affect us on land? And that's where the ideology or the inquiry of what functionality are we really under came about.
Right. So I'm going to go on word for word it, man. Admiralty law, or maritime law, is a body of law that governs nautical issues and private maritime disputes. Admiralty law consists of both domestic law on maritime activities and private international law governing the relationships between private parties operating or using ocean-going ships. While each legal jurisdiction usually has its own legislation governing maritime matters, the international nature of the topic and the need for uniformity has since 1900 led to considerable international maritime law developments, including numerous multilateral treaties. Admiralty law may be distinguished from the law of the sea, which is a body of public international laws dealing with navigational rights, mineral rights, jurisdiction over coastal waters, and the maritime relationships between nations. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea has been adopted by 167 countries, and the European Union, and disputes are resolved at the ITLOS Tribunal in Hamburg, Germany. Right. Now, the history on this law, I'm just going to give a brief rundown of the history, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about what this actually means, this admiralty law. But seaborne transport was one of the earliest channels of commerce, and rules for resolving disputes involving maritime trade were developed early in recorded history. Early historical records of these laws include the Rhodian law, Nomos Rhodian Nauticos, of which no primary written specimen has survived, but which is alluded to in other legal texts. Roman and Byzantine legal codes, and later the costumes of the Consulate of the Sea, or the Hanseatic League. In southern Italy, the Ordinamenta et Consueto Matters 1063 at Trani and Amalfian laws were in effect from an early date. Not sure what all that is, but we'll keep it going.
I think that's alluding to those who, or the name of the person who actually came up with the legislation for that law or for those laws.
Okay. So that's the credits. I got you. I got you. Bracton noted further that admiralty law was also used as an alternative to the common law in Norman England, which previously required voluntary submission to it by entering a plea seeking judgment from the court. So there's an example of where it was actually used on land. But in order for a person to have to, in order for a person in that instance to fall underneath the law, they would have to have entered a plea into the court,
right,
seeking judgment from the court. A leading sponsor of admiralty law in Europe was the French Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor, sometimes known as Eleanor of Guyenne, had learned about admiralty law whilst on a crusade in the Eastern Mediterranean with her first husband, King Louis VII of France. Eleanor then established admiralty law on the island of Oleron, where it was published as the Rose of Oleron. Sometime later, when she was in London acting as regent for her son, King Richard of the Lionheart, Eleanor instituted admiralty law into England as well. So this is giving us a rundown of Europeans that were high in the end of the Parliament government, and in that they were inducting the admiralty laws on land at this time.
And the reason that a lot of this is important, because for one, we have to we see and we hear that it entails and invokes a lot of different things, such as commerce. Okay, one point to that is, I don't know one owner of African or black descent of any commercial ports here on this continent. Okay, so you may have a business, you may have a business license, you may get product to run your business and to sell through your business, but you don't really, you may run a business, but you really don't own that business. And I say that from the aspect is, excuse me, to where if you don't own no port, then you don't have no ability or functionality of bringing in product, shipping out product. And that's the bulk of commerce and the ways of making money in this country. If your business supplies clothing, and whoever owns the port for which your product comes in on decides to shut down or to shut your distribution or ability to receive that product, how can you say you really own or run that business? All they got to do is not like you and say, well, you know, your shipment didn't come in today. Okay, or we just not going to ship it to you, because once it hits their port, once it hits their property, once it hits their land, they can seize it and see fit how to distribute it how they want to. That's why the Marcus Garveyism and the Marcus Garvey Pan-Africanism and the Black Star Line was so detrimental in losing that aspect of functionality and thought, because this brother had a set up and was implementing systems where we would have a port of call. We would have, if nothing else, a shipping line to where if we didn't have a port of call, we had the ability to at least obtain product and get it in and out of this country on our own merit, on our own ability. You know, that's one aspect.
Flying over the boat,
right,
any kind of way.
Right. It opened up the doors is basically what I'm trying to convey.
I get it.
It opened up a door to where, with that shipping line, with the Black Star Line, if it was functioning today, 9 times out of 10, there would have been some type of, if not partial, full ownership of a port of call on this continent for black people,
Right.
which would have gave us more of a stronghold, more of a control over our commerce, our communities. Okay, which also would have bridged the gap between black Americans, blacks in Jamaica, blacks in the in Africa, blacks in the Caribbean, anywhere else in the world, brother, where we are really the natural owners of anything that's really of any importance. Mineral rights, you talking about clothing? Oh man, the kente cloths and things like that we're getting now from Korea instead of Africa, the originator. I mean, come on, it's crazy the type of things this would have set in function. So we have to really dig a little deeper. We have to really open up our mind's eye towards the things that these laws, when they start implementing them across different lands and governments and continents, how they really are affecting us personally as well as a community. Knowing that that's just one aspect of how they control us through this maritime law. Now, one of the main questions that I had too with researching this and asking this question is, with maritime law being a military law, a military function basically, how does that tie into martial law? And is maritime law and martial law the same thing? Well, in my understanding, they are different, but they're both military laws. And as you just read, maritime law has some domestic rule. Is that not what that said?
Well, it's not only said that it has some domestic rule, but that it has been inducted by several dignitaries over throughout the past
course of history,
right,
to operate or be operable on land. So, basically, if you tie the two and two together, the functionality is that we are really under some type of military law. So implementing martial law at this point is not going to be nothing but a drop of a hat.
Let me ask you this, brother. What does it mean to you if there's a public announcement made, or even if there isn't, but there are whispers and indications that that's what it is. It's martial law. Right here where we're at. What are the first things that come to mind for you?
One of the first things that comes to mind is how secure are we. Second, another first that comes to mind is how are we going to outlive this slavery in becoming openly and directly wards of the state, wards of the government, to the aspect of being just like the Germans did the Jews and pretty much anybody else they encountered, guinea pigs, where they're experimenting on us. They're doing it now in a so-called covert manner, and the things that they put into the water, into the food, and to everyday functionality, especially with things like the swine flu, all the way up to the bird flu, the dog flu, the cat flu, and the swine flu, and now COVID. So it's not like, if you read between the lines and you really think from an aspect of dealing with somebody who is trying to openly destroy you or, take your place, that what the functionality is. So those are two things that really come to mind. Another is how do we survive? I mean, one thing is, like we've been speaking, you got to have some place to where you can bunker down at. You got to be able to, faithfully, rightfully, and justifiably defend yourself. Is that possible on this continent, on this land? No matter what, I think I gave you a piece of paper that showed how ruthless that this government is, especially under the Bush watch. And that means Daddy Bush and Junior Bush. Knowing that, a little history on the Bush family, with George Sr. being the founder and the CEO of the CIA, I believe,
right.
the CIA. His father was Hitler's right-hand man, was one of his, one of his key financiers. Okay, so it's not odd to say or odd to think that we've been under German rule, so to speak, for a long time now. We've been experimented on from that aspect of being for a long time now, where now they put out this information where, was it 2007, I believe, 2006, 2007, they implemented this law and legislation that was signed in by George Bush Jr., or the second George Bush that went into office, that martial law could be implemented by the president without any approval of any government and any governor of any state, which changed the aspect of each state being in somewhat of its own control of its state. When they implemented that gave the president the sole right to be able to say, I don't care. Just like, okay, and I'm saying this to lead up to the point of what your boy Trump is doing. Okay, when this COVID thing started, he told several governors in each state, well, if you don't take care of the problem, I'm gonna take care of the problem. Okay, it gave the president the sole right and ability to invoke martial law, regardless of whether the governors said that's not what they wanted or that's what they were going to allow or not allow. So they've been setting a tone and setting up these laws and legislation and rules
as we
for the longest.
Stroll along for the longest, and they really kicked in some heavy movement toward getting a lot of this stuff front and center for you. Here
basically
in the last,
putting us back in shackles.
Yeah, in these last 8-9 months, brother.
Yeah.
I got another question I pose to you. So, in the overall movement of buying land here in the United States of America, in a situation in which we're looking at, months, maybe days, years, maybe months, maybe even days or hours before, the next blow comes, and something like this, declared, or even, like I say, the whisper of such. People that own land and property, one of the things when it comes to martial law is that, in order to, if the government says, hey, we need this ground to secure the country, they have all out right just to snatch that
eminent domain.
Yeah, and not replace with equal or better value opportunity. What does that put the person that's really gaming on being able to have something solid right here in the United States?
And that's a good question, brother. And that's something that I would have to further research and get my knowledge up on.
Okay.
But from an aspect of speculation at this point, that's why, well, for one, one of the main ways to become sovereign, and this is really what we're talking about here when we talk about land ownership, is sovereignty, in a large part. One way to get to a point of being sovereign, and I hesitate, and I speak on that from the aspect of me being sovereign by myself. What good does that do my community? Okay, so buying land for me, or buying land for me and my family, or me and a couple of partners, or whatever group or community that we trying to start, establish exactly, has to be, the vital point of that is to do it in numbers, to where the sovereignty numbers are high. That way the land can be declared and considered sovereign land.
Gotcha.
what changes the game as far as my understanding, as far as what under law, natural law, maritime law, how they affect that situation.
Gotcha.
So that's why I say we have to educate ourselves on what these laws are and how they implement it and what they actually do and the ins and outs of them as far as how they affect us, on a total aspect. And that's like I said before, that's a damn good question, because these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. These are the things that we have to research and really know. And that's the importance of educating our children. That's the importance of, like other cultures do, they pick a specific realm for each child and say, okay, regardless of what your passion is and what you can do on this side, this is what we're going to this is what we're going to finance you to become and to learn. So when you get through and you have mastered this knowledge and education, you bring it back to the community so we can build this community. Now, after that, and you're able to bring that knowledge back, then those who have a passion for the knowledge that you bring back can take it further, and then you can do your passion.
Absolutely.
But we have to mandate, and we have to set up structure to where we can circumvent and build from an aspect of from below the ground. We got to dig deep and plant seeds and create roots to where when the situation is it's adhered to, and not only adhered to, it can be followed and structured in a manner of totality. We send Abraham to be a lawyer. We send Amina to be a doctor. Absolutely. And not just a doctor, not a practitioner, but a law healer, a natural lawful healer, to where she knows the substances and the ins and outs of herbs and botanicals and things of that nature. Okay, we have to send Ahmad. We have to send him to school for finance, so he'll know the structure of business when it comes to not only other communities, but how to structure it towards our community to make our community rich in the knowledge of how to build communities, and so when they get back and they get this knowledge and they come back to us, then they can not forcibly, but they can actually accentuate that knowledge by teaching younger and younger ones of us, so we can actually continue to build on these knowledges.
Would be in that fashion, we'll be building new positive cycles.
Right. Engineers, function as far as electrical engineers, as far as farmers, environmental engineers, as far as what do they call them? Like you said, farmers. I think it's botanicals, or I can't remember the
botanists. Yeah.
We need to get all of these functional modes and methods and ideologies and educational forms into our functionality, into our community, to where we can get back to what we were doing in the late 1800s, 1700s, where we knew how to farm the land. We knew how after a certain season, then we changed the structure or changed the land that we formed, so this land can neutralize itself and get the nutritional values back in the dirt. So when we come back a season or two later, we can plant here instead of planting there, and the food will grow just as prosperous for us. Electrical, because everything is electric nowadays. Get electrical engineers so we can build our own computers, and we can function under the aspects of knowing what they know or knowing what they're doing with what they're building, so we can have something that'll neutralize these drones that has explosive tip bullets in them that are seeking to assassinate us without we having no recourse. Right. We need those in our community. We need those mind states and mindsets of knowledge in our community. We need to be able to actively defend ourselves. And that don't mean prepare for war, even though it means prepare for war.
Right.
It just means build your knowledge. Build your knowledge of every aspect of being that they base their attack on. So when they decide to attack, and that's what they're doing, all the way back to Trayvon Martin, all the way back to what's the brother Brown that they choked out in New York, all the way back to Medgar Evers, it's an attack.
Yeah, don't start that. Obviously, it doesn't seem to stop.
Hadn't, because you can name probably several more thousands and millions of brothers and sisters way back past then, and I know you can, that took the same punishment in the same, was dealt with in the same manner, just because of their strength, the strength of their spirit, the strength of their mind, because they was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or was in a place that they were made to be, but didn't like it, so they stood for something.
I wanted to go a little further into definition on martial law. Martial law, man, this is really deep. I got the simple Google response to martial law in simple terms, and as well a couple of the rules of martial law. So, what is martial law in simple terms? Martial law is a law administered by the military rather than a civilian government. Martial law may be declared in an emergency or response to a crisis or to control occupied territory. Now, what are the rules of martial law? So they only listed a few, but these are the ones that came right off the top. And it said typically the imposition of martial law accompanies curfews, the suspension of civil law, civil rights, and habeas corpus, and the application or extension of military law or military justice to civilians. Civilians defying martial law may be subjected to military tribunal, meaning court-martial, like a person would be if they were actually in the service. So that's just...
Which means that if you spit on the ground, they can kill you under court-martial law, by court-martialing you, saying that was something that was illegal and your punishment befits death. Okay? If you was combing your hair and they didn't like the way you structured your hairstyle, then under martial law, they can say that was an act of treason and they can kill you for that. Because in most cases, in the military, they do time. When you get court-martialed in the military, you're talking about hard time, hard
barracks.
Hard time. Yeah. So
they ain't playing.
No, not at all, brother. Says there are two types of martial law. Qualified martial law is when military assists civilians law enforcement to ensure public safety. This generally occurs when state and local authorities are unable to control a disturbance or handle the issues that occur following natural or man-made disasters. However, these events include large crowd protests, riots, a fear of looting, or strike. Okay, absolute martial law means the military has taken complete control over law enforcement. Now,
you know the other part about that?
What's that?
There was I just was digging a little further while you were digging, bro, and the other part of martial law is that it locks the wherever the
president is, or the
dictator,
general,
whoever,
right, whatever you want to call him.
The
locks them in.
Prime minister,
right?
Whoever's leading the country,
right,
at the time that this individual proclaims this scenario,
right.
He's basically in tune. He's the ruler until, otherwise cooled,
right,
or exiled or or something of that nature.
And that was a question of mine too. How do once martial law is declared, how is it undeclared? What steps and what rule of law will change the ability of them controlling the environment and the situation through martial law? And obviously, like I said, to some degree or another, it would have to come under some other military act, a coup, or somebody having enough balls to take out the powers that be in order to change that rule. Because, I mean, we also found that, like right now, over in, I want to say Russia, Vladimir Putin, he's the dictator now.
Yeah, and
He killed Parliament. He killed all, and nobody. Everything goes through him.
right. And I was told that there's not going to be any opportunity to get him out of the office.
Not till
he's basically locked in.
2036 or something like
Yeah,
that.
he came some crazy year.
Yeah.
So, the last time an actual government,
And you know him and Trump is.
I already know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they work together to get the whole situation popping and working right now to twist it up even more. I mean this whole wraparound, man.
Exactly, bro. Exactly. So that's why time is vital, man. Time is of the essence, and that's why these type of subjects, hit my mind and my brain, and we need to definitely get on top of the discussion, and not just the discussion board, but on solutions to what we are about to face, what we're facing really right now.
Absolutely. I believe at this point what's taking place is a lot like most of the times when most instances, people they are hard at work laying the foundation for a serious change for us all.
They are.
They have been for quite some time now.
Again, we have to ask, what is that change? And it's not like it's so secretive or covert that we can't see or read between the lines to accentuate where we are headed or what their plans for us are. We are in such a state of confusion. We're in such a state of fear and to a large degree unawareness that
More of that going on than anything.
yeah, man, that they got us chasing our tails. We battling each other. We getting battled on by them and every other community. And the crazy thing about it, in the same discussion I was having, so many of them are chasing to be back within the ranks of us. You got so many different cultures now trying to marry black, trying to have children by black, trying to get back into the realm of being the spirited ones. And it's crazy to me how you could have so much hate for us but still want to be so a part of us that it's not even funny. So we have to be aware and understand that a lot of times this thing that is represented as love is really just another device or another way of getting into a position to strike. We got to be careful of who we bring into our existence. I was told years ago that you got to be careful of who you bring to this planet, and which meant in large part in the discussion that I was having by the sister that was teaching me is when you choose a mate, when you choose a woman and you lay down and have a child by that woman, you got to really be careful about that woman that chooses you, because what you bring forth from that spirit could be either very, very, very advantageous or very, very detrimental, because you have those spirited ones that are here to destroy. And if you bring in something here with that connotation, then it's just not like you really just bringing another being to earth. You know, you gotta really know whom you dealing with, because out of all my children, I can look at each one of them and say, man, that's a totally different spirit. Wow, you know, maybe I should have checked myself when I was messing with this chick. Or man, you know, I'm really glad that, you know, I had children by this one and that. I mean, you can really see the differences in the mentality and the spirit of these ones that we bring to this realm. So we really have to be careful about, like I said, the females that choose us and what the purpose of it is. We got to really know them deeply, mentality, spiritually, and be aware of what comes forth from that atmosphere of collusion.
Yes. I think that, man, this is truthfully, brother.
It's a vast conversation.
Well, just the understanding of the laws and the time frames in which these laws have been already in place. The fact that you know, all it takes is one individual to say, this is what we're going to work toward, and actually bring this about, and can actually, you know, like we said, seal themselves into you know, an elongated leadership position over whatever country it comes from. I just read that back in I think it was back in 72, Ferdinand Marcos
exactly
actually inducted martial law.
Yep.
And
To
believe
keep from
it,
getting kicked out of the country.
and what was so crazy was the craziest part about this is he actually proclaimed martial law before I was born. But I can remember being in school when Corazon Aquino ran against. It was literally, he locked himself into a 14-year period,
Right.
ruling the Philippines.
Yep.
And it was I didn't realize that he had been in office that long. I didn't realize there was that much heat behind his position leading up to, you know, because I think he left out on a coup there, didn't they? Yeah, Corazon Aquino. Yeah, they came in and knocked him out, and then they exiled him. Yes, don't come over here no more.
Well, guess where he came?
To the United States. Get out of here.
Him and his wife,
Get
Imelda
outta here.
Marcos.
Yeah, I do remember hearing that. That was Newsline shortly after. It certainly was. It certainly was. It certainly was.
So, who's fueling that fire? And we gotta, I mean, you know. Bruh,
And what did he get away with for 14 years?
billions. And as far as that, you asking that question, what atrocities as far as humanity?
Did he get away with for 14 years? Where the people would have to uprise and take their lives in their own hands, you know, because this fool
Just to
ain't
get
coming out of
civil
office.
rights.
Just to get their civil rights back. So,
Wow. And you can talk about Tiananmen Square. You can talk about, you know, many of other situations that we've been introduced or inducted in because of the so-called powers that be. So we in situations that, on the surface, if we just looking from a surface point of view, that we really have no clue of how deep the rabbit hole goes.
absolutely.
And we got to really get on top of this and start filling that rabbit hole in and getting to a place of what is the end game. What is the end game? What is the ultimate goal and purpose? Not for us, but for our enemy. Because the only way you can defend yourself is to know the thoughts and the actions of your enemy. I mean, the This is chess, not checkers. This ain't, backgammon. This ain't none of that. This is about survival and a structured system to defend your king. And your king is your spirituality. Your king is your creator. Your king is the functionality of what created life. And that power itself is wondering whether or not you have enough about you to sacrifice for the love that created you. I mean, think about it, really.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't a situation to where it was a let's see type of situation, or getting feedback on every nuance or every nerve that was created to see what that feedback is bringing to its being accented in itself, then why would we be going through the things that we go through to send that information? Because our experiences are exactly that information, So if I'm letting you, if I build or slike with my son or my daughters, if I sit back and watch them go through situations, no matter how great or how destructive, and instead of actually stepping in and destroying whatever negative that's coming their way, but I sit back and let them go through it and let them fight through it or be destroyed by it or whatever, then I have to be doing it from an aspect of getting better myself, or training myself that that's what this brings, or that's what that brings, or the cause and the effect of this is that. So now how do I implement that into me, so the next time I bring about this creation, I can set into place these motions this way? You understand what I'm saying? So, but being a humanoid or one from this realm as a creation with my children, I have more humanity and say, well, I don't want them to experience that. So I'll step in on this behalf or step in on that behalf. Where in the totality of the experience, then I'm not getting the same education, or they not getting the same education.
Right.
Right. So to some degree, we have to be able to step back and let them fall and let them scrape their knees and let them bump their heads, and then guide them towards the beings that they deserve to be, that they were created to be. And so the same thing is with us as a whole as far as creation. We are sensors and sensitivities of information and experiences back towards what created us. Now, in my understanding and my thought processes, our creator, our love, the love that created us and brought us in, could have easily long time ago stepped in and wiped this out totally.
And it has, be it if we're going to go by any of the history books, there's been instances
where that has happened.
And even if it wasn't the full platform, like certain definite sections were totaled, throughout history.
At the drop of a dime.
I mean, we got one. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't maybe, if not as graphic as some of the stuff we read about to the time, but I mean, we saw what happened right there, 2005 with Hurricane Katrina. I mean, I'd never seen a natural disaster level a land like I did up close and personal. Right. We had seen different things, right. Hurricanes and different natural disasters hit other parts of the world, right. But when it hit New Orleans like it did back in 05 with Katrina, right. And then Rita right behind it, right. Man, I didn't that was mind blowing for me. That was right. Breathtaking. It was.
And even with that, brother, that's kind of skewed because those levees didn't burst; they were blown up.
That's right.
That's right. But the actual act of the hurricane, how do you create that?
Well, there are a lot of different.
I mean, they do have functionalities and where they can do what they want to with the weather.
Yeah.
But still, the obvious is the destruction.
Right.
The obvious is the repair of that destruction,
Yeah.
if it's repairable at all.
You know, I think, man, you might have had a discussion about the machines.
The heart laser.
Yeah. You know,
And what it's done around the world.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that huge tsunami.
It happened in Asia.
Yeah, and it was like that thing. They had like two of them, like within about 5 years. That was like boom, boom.
Hit Haiti, and come to find out that was a development of trying to get that mineral that only exists one in Haiti and the other in Africa. So, and then they come in and they scoop all that up under the under the maritime law that they control because it happened from a natural disaster. Yeah. So we got to really, really be sharp. We got to really, really dive into governmental issues, and that's why I said at the top of the show, if you're really into the voting thing, and I've only, in my adult life, I can only think of maybe three times that I voted, but I'm really, really contemplating doing that this year because, and if not for the president, I don't really care about that office because I don't think that that's really going to do anything, but for local government.
Local government, yeah.
Local government, know who represents what in your local government, and
apply pressure there. That's where you can apply pressure at.
Yeah,
that's the place where you can truly. Because you'd be surprised, man. You walk up in some of these city halls, man, and see how naked the councilmen are. You know what I'm saying? And, the rule makers for that municipality, how easy it is to walk up on them, man. Yeah. So those are the ones that. And normally they're the ones that are sensitive to what's really to the community's needs,
right? Because
because that's why they're there. A lot of them are there because of that,
right?
So it's a matter of us bridging the gap,
and that's where what we were speaking about earlier, as far as having little Ahmad go into law,
right?
Because then he knows the rules and knows the regulations and
Absolutely.
how the functionalities, so he can go be that congressman, he can go be that city councilman, he can go be that sheriff and that police chief and whatever it takes to get to a point where he has the ability to change law.
Absolutely. Man, we done took half the show. We're gonna come back and give y'all the other half right here, Black Conscious Voices. Me and my brother Mike, man, we have been sitting down and discussing community reform for quite some time now.
Yes, sir.
And at this point, we're asking for our listening audience, for the people out there that are watching us, to tap in and give us some insight on some of the things we're speaking about, to as well. Let us know how you feel about our viewpoints as well. I mean,
right.
If
educate us.
If it's something that you can add or something that needs to be taken away,
right.
by all means, reach out, tap in. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna jump into a single or two, and then we're gonna come back and see if we got any phone calls and talk a little more about some of the pros. And there really aren't any, but all of these cons of this maritime admiralty law and of course martial law.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Y'all keep it locked right here at atlwebradio.com. Black Conscious Voices.
Yeah.
They say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's the color of one's skin and the beauty of one's eye. So many of us talk about dark skin, light skin, what is and what ain't within, but we overlook it all for the booty. You see, the physical has no bearing on the elegance and grace of the spiritual and mental one that's inside you, that creates the only one of you that it takes millions to make. I'm talking black and light, not white. The substance of nothingness, a blank page of anger and rage, giving you the belief of death, not rest. Life is a cipher, a circle that never ends, passing by trends and fads of trends, only to come black again. Truth, justice, and freedom. None of that is possible without unity. The you and I self, transit of you. The inner scope of self-love and hate. Travel away from the lies on the surface to keep from the unjust or ingesting their truth of their perception. The gods and goddesses are in we trust. Everything you hear, smell, and see is creator he. Everything you feel, learn, and touch is creation she. Does that make us gods as we go on debating the source of the we in the he and she? I am that I am. The truth is something found in what others want you to see and believe. Live to be real. Reality. Believe.
That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? They might pick you up, but you're my hidden treasure. That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? They might pick you up, but you're my hidden treasure. Don't you ever slip away. Say no to them suckers in your face. They tryna buy what you won't give away. Straight up. But I know I can get that any day. Okay, come on. Ain't no way I'ma let you go. No way. If you go both ways, we can cross that street without looking both ways. I ain't here to judge you, I'ma love you. Swear I won't change. I'ma get a Maybach, she get a 2-door Porsche. We gon' be in all 4 lanes. Don't nobody gotta know. I like the fact that you anonymous. You went to college with no scholarship. I'm proud of all of your accomplishments. You never hungry for attention, and that's what attracts me the most. It's a small city in a small world, babe. Hey, I'm just happy to know that everybody had everybody but you. Everybody know everybody but you. That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? They might pick you up, but you're my hidden treasure. That's how I like it. I was waiting on my first check. Minimum wage, breaking down in the middle of days. Rap dreams wasn't getting them paid. Old freaks wasn't giving no play, they vanished. But behind every strong man is a strong woman helping hold the planet. That's you, and that's true. You make me wanna run a bag up. Get a world till you spend whatever money, it don't matter how it add up. Not cause you bad, cause you handle your business and you stay focused. Just know somebody always watching, even when it feel like ain't nobody noticed. Don't you ever lose your innocence. Asking me what do you benefit when your heart filled with bitterness. I just want you to remember this. You never hungry for attention, and that's what attract me the most. It's a small city in a small world, babe. Hey, I'm just happy to know that everybody had everybody, everybody but you. Everybody know everybody, everybody but you. That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? They might dig you up, but you're my hidden treasure. That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? They might dig you up, but you're my hidden, you're my hidden, you're my hidden treasure. That's how I like it. That's how I like it. Who gon' treat you better? You're my hidden treasure. Who gon' treat you better? Girl, you're my hidden, you're my hidden, you're my hidden treasure. Missing meals, tryna get a million. Bills got me tryna get a billion. Kept it real, I deserve a trillion, yeah. Only for gun, I'll go above and beyond for this. Missing meals, tryna get a million. Bills got me tryna get a billion. Kept it real, I deserve a trillion, yeah. Come on. Look, I just put some money on my dog books. I'm talking about the one the law took, Free Lil Billy. And I'm the one they call a crook, call it what you wanna, I'ma call it shook. Beat the eye, most of us ain't even supposed to be alive. Is you dreaming or you scheming? You can't tread between them lines. Make a wish, I just made a plan that's gonna make us rich, make them switch, that's what money do, and they don't make no sense. All these bills got me trying to get a bill. Leon, you ain't a real one, you a real peon. Missing meals cause I'm chasing after meal. Leon's only begun, I'll go above and beyond for this. Missing meals, tryna get a million. Bills got me tryna get a billion. Kept it real, I deserve a trillion, yeah. Only begun, I'll go above and beyond for this. Missing meals, tryna get a million. Bills got me tryna get a billion. Kept it real, I deserve a trillion, yeah. For the freaks, sorry I can't relate. They go harder for me. Put my heart on the beat. I went harder in the streets. We don't celebrate the struggle, so no parties for me. I'd rather run up a sack, sun up and I'm up with that. I'm talking Section 8 housing, not many come up from that. They say I'm solid and humble, you know solid don't crumble. If you ain't talking about guala, then quit calling this number. Yeah, I put in the work, I deserve to go and splurge, yeah. I took all the risks, I'm who stood out on the curb, yeah. No dirt on my name, reputation is superb, yeah. They know they can't touch me, they attack me with they words. Swerve, all in your lane, swinging and bumping Nipsey Hussle. You know when you ready, when it get tough and you don't buckle. I called up my mama like I just wanna say I love you. We been through it long enough, ain't nowhere to go but up. All these bills got me trying to get a bill. Leon, you ain't a real one, you a real peon. Missing meals cause I'm chasing after meal. Leon's only begun, I'll go above and beyond for this. Missing meals trying to get a million. Bills got me trying to get a billion. Kept it real, I deserve a trillion, yeah. Only begun, I'll go above and beyond for this. to the soil since day one. Yeah.
Missing meals trying to get a million. Bills got me trying to get a billion. Kept it real like deserve a trillion. Yeah.
Only begun, I'll go above and beyond for this.
Missing meals trying to get a million. Bills got me trying to get a billion. Kept it real like deserve a trillion. Yeah.
Only begun, I'll go above and beyond all these bills. Leon skipping meals for the meal. Leon's kept it trill. I want a trill. Leon, you ain't real. You ain't real. Yeah.
It's all about the money. Get the money, stack the money. That's all we focus on in the hood. I get it. But you gotta understand, man, the number one thing in life that mean the most valuable thing is love. So I always tell myself, I gotta put the love above the money if the love real. If the love ain't real, stack up, of course. But if the love real, you gotta put it above the money. Cause ain't nothing worse than being rich and lonely. I'm just telling you what an OG told me.
Wake up, bless up, count up, win. Wake up, bless up, count up, again. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, 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 guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, 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 guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, energy, guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. You can't ruin my day. No bad vibes, won't let it ride, won't let it slide. Check your pride, rep your side. Where you from? Don't forget it when that paper start to come. I sense a lot of hate, but I just can't relate. Cause if I got a problem, I say it face to face. Try my best to drop it, make my next deposit. They condone the violence, but don't respect the knowledge. Yeah, I was hood rich and I never switched. Hit my first freak, macking ever since. Living toxic, had to find my element. Protect my happiness, I almost let it slip. Wake up, bless up, count up, win. Wake up, bless up, count up, again. Wake up, bless up, count up, win. Wake up, bless up, count up, count up, count up. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, energy, guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, energy, energy. Come on, come on. This your song gaining. Tell the DJ gon' play it. This your song gaining. Tell the DJ gon' play it. Come on. Common sense ain't common. Avoid all that drama. Tattletales on your tail, they gon' point you out of lineup. Think it, believe it, speak it, achieve it. Bring your struggles in the comments. Opportunity in front of you. Put the pettiness behind you. Energy, energy, energy. Ay, top down like I'm Kennedy. Ay, they assassinate greatness. Treat a hero like an enemy. I keep my distance. Gotta complete my mission. I don't mind no small talk, but I mind my business. I'll give you the game, but you gotta play it. He gave you a soul, now you gotta save it. If you got a life, you better not waste it. Adam and Eve, fruit on the tree, better not taste it. Ay, guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, 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 guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. You can't ruin my day. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. Energy, 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 guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy. You can't ruin my day. Energy, energy. You can't ruin my day. Energy, energy. Who can't? You can't. Wake up, bless up, count up, win. Wake up, bless up, count up. Ruin my day. Wake up, bless up, count up.
This your song, ain't it? Tell the DJ, gon' play it. This your song, ain't it? Tell the DJ, gon' play it.
Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy, energy. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy, energy. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy, energy. Guard your energy, watch your energy, protect your energy, energy.
ATLWebRadio.com. Yours truly, the Cyber DJ, the CK, live in the building. I am rocking with my brother Mike Cypher, and we're back at you to further discuss maritime law, also known as admiralty law, and as well we're discussing martial law. But I wanted to kind of read over some stuff Brother Mike handed me before we went on the air about a act for the fiscal year of 2007. H.R. 5122, also known as the John Warner National Defense Authorization Act, for fiscal year 2007 was a bill passed in the United States Congress on September 29, 2006, and signed by President George W. Bush on October 17, 2006, becoming Public Law 109364. In addition to allocating funding for the armed forces, it also gave the president the power to declare martial law and to take command of the National Guard units of each state without the consent of state governors. In 2006, Congress passed the 2007 National Defense Authorization Act, which gave the president the authority to mobilize National Guard units within the U.S. without the consent of state governors. But on April 2nd, 2007, U.S. Senate held hearings about recent changes to the Insurrection Act of 1807 in Section 1072 of the Defense Authorization Act, where Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont sought to reverse the 2006 amendments to the Insurrection Act, which had given the U.S. president vast new powers to use military for domestic disturbance, terrorism, insurrection, etc. Even changed the name from Insurrection Act to Enforcement of the Laws to Restore Public Order. In the Senate hearing, Senator Chris Bond testified, "Mr. Chairman, the measure that was included in last year's Congressional Defense Authorization Act, Defense Authorization Act I think was ill-conceived, unnecessary, and dumb. Even some of the members of the SASC who should have did not know about it. But this is an influential panel, and you know how it has changed the old law, and we now know that all 50 of our nation's governors, adjutants general, and the local law enforcement are opposed to it. Nobody knows where it came from, allowing the president to invoke the act and declare martial law where public order breaks down as a result of natural disaster, epidemic, terrorist attack is very ambiguous and gives him broad authority potentially to usurp the role of the governors. Based on strong opposition by Congress, individual state governors, law enforcement community, and absence of clarity on who even introduced these charges, the enforcement of the laws to restore public order law was repealed a year later in January 28th of 2008, based on Senator Pat Leahy's 513 proposal to repeal, and the previous Insurrection Act was restored. As of 2020, the Insurrection Act of 1807 still applies in limiting a U.S. president's ability under Title 10 to federalize National Guard troops for martial law purposes. Now, I find this to be deep, because even though it states that it applies limiting the U.S. president's ability under Title 10 to federalize National Guard troops for martial law purposes, I don't know if you guys remember when we were having the disputes about curfews and the whole police brutality scenario arose. The president had Army troops in several U.S. states surrounding the Capitol buildings.
And definitely in D.C.
And definitely in Georgia, too.
Yep.
So that would mean, and in those instances, if I can recollect, the only reason why he did do that is because he actually informed the governors that if they did not take control, that he was going to do so.
Right. Now, how crazy is that when
this clearly states that he doesn't have that power?
Exactly. So what urged them to go ahead and enact that motion under his threat? What power is he really wielding in order to get them to move on that? Another thing for me is, how in the hell do you not know where legislation is coming from that you enact or that you have implemented as law?
And that came from the president.
And it came from the president.
So what did he, John Doe it?
He's the one, 9 times out of 10, that wrote that shit. But I'm saying, they claiming that they don't know
where it came from.
Where it came from.
That's what I'm saying. So he John Doe it, got it passed.
Exactly.
Into law, in fact.
Himself.
And I got another Bush story.
And what they said? They said he did that when? It started in 2006, right?
14 years ago.
Okay, so but they didn't change that law till when?
2007.
Was it 2007?
Excuse me, late 2006. Late 2006.
No, what I'm saying, they implemented in 2006.
Right, but they didn't change it to 2008.
So when
they flipped it back in 2008.
When was it? It was 2000. So those 2 years, which was probably his last 2 years in office?
Probably so.
He had the power, if he wanted to invoke martial law and continue to be in power until they repealed that in 2008. Which probably wasn't implemented until 2009. And that's right about the time that Clinton came around, if I'm not mistaken. But either way it go, for you to be able to draw up a legislation that nobody knew about, none of the congressmen knew about, none of the senators knew about, nobody knew about.
Some shaky shit going on, Mike.
Man, brother, what? So that tells you right there how vital it is for us to be more in tuned and on top of whom and what we face. This is not what they say,
a laughing matter.
No,
by no means.
This is not a game
at all, brother. Executive Directive 51. Executive Directive 51, also known as the National Security and Homeland Security Presidential Directive, was signed into law by President George W. Bush in May 2007. The directive, which was created in the wake of the September 11th attacks, allows the president to appoint a national continuity coordinator in order to maintain a continuity of government during a catastrophic emergency. The president assumes control of the legislative branch and is allowed to overrule the judicial branch under this scenario, thus ensuing de facto martial law. In addition, the president can use the directive in order to restructure local governments, as the 2020 directive has not yet been invoked. So it's still in full effect.
Wow.
Still in full effect. Man, I didn't even realize you had 3 really hot stories here, but there's another one for Alabama that You got that one over there too?
No, that's the only print. That's
Oh,
a
wow.
part of this whole collective thing right here, man.
wow.
And this is about 30, 40 pages.
Wow, this is deep, man.
Yeah.
So, some got through the, some got through the cracks, and evidently some didn't. But there were a lot of, and he's not the only president that's ran this.
The crazy thing about that, brother,
Trump's doing it
excuse
right
me.
now.
Yeah, is now that, and what you just read states that, and earlier when we were talking about martial law and being under court martial, that means that no matter what, no matter if you didn't commit the offense, no matter what, the president has the right to make the rules,
Right.
and he has the right to rule on whether or not you are guilty or not,
That's right. He overrules
Whether-
the judicial system.
whether you are or not.
Right.
So in other words, he can tell you, you come up in front of in front of that view board or court or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You was nowhere in sight of whatever the offense is,
Mm-hmm.
and he deems you guilty.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have no ability to refute that.
Whatsoever.
You have no ability to show evidence saying that you wasn't there. What do they call it? You have no appeal strategy. You have no appeal access.
Right. That's deep.
Tell me who's behind the gun and who's in front of the bullet. So we got to really understand, man, what these things, what they telling us. We got to really deal with the aspect of how vulnerable we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He can overrule the Supreme Court. You don't realize that you're looking at segregation again. And any other thing they can choose to implement. I mean, they got, you can best believe, man, they got shackles waiting. The thing is, what are the people going to do? The people who are still dumbfounded and under the aspect of thought of following orders, then they're going to march right into their own incineration.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Word
the
up.
craziness, brother.
Word up. Word up. We are at a very, very pivotal time in humanity, brother. When it comes to the overall outlook on people as individuals, races, it's just so much. Even with religion intermingled in there,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of people
Yeah.
a lot of people are putting down the religion card, but you still got some people that are still holding it very,
Hold
very,
tight.
very tightly.
Yes, sir.
And again, these are all continued areas in which people draw lines in the sand and remain separated.
Mm-hmm.
And this draws out a very ugly picture. If
Keeps us separated.
yeah, it draws out a very ugly picture, man, moving forward. And you would think that where we're at now in time, we would be more, the more relative thoughts would be preserving mankind in the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it's such a hurried, aggression towards tearing it
Destruction.
down.
Yeah.
Total destruction, brother.
It's a trip. You saying that, what it brings me to mind of when we was watching that video the other day from the Vatican that was written to President Obama about
That was deep.
rule of law and how America really has no structure of rule. And this was a published letter to President Obama about how American law system and structures have no rule. And are in what was the word, was in default. And anyone practicing and like we discussed, and like I was telling you, so why is it that since they really supposed to not have any power, why is all the police killings and everything that's going on still going on? And a lot of it is due to the fact of the confusion, to keep your mind off of the actual processes that's being invoked and in turn to
Quietly.
right, that we don't hear about or know about under the table, but they there. And just like we've said before, we got brothers and sisters all over the world watching us and seeing how we going to move, or whether we going to fold, or whether
are we going to move?
Right. And are we going to move?
Right.
You know, and they just waiting on us to make a move. So we really have to adjust.
I think proof is proof positive of what you're saying, just based on again, something else we talked about earlier when it came to the George Floyd murder by police, and the way that the world reacted. When we decided enough was enough here, the whole world sat down and, you know, bear witness to the atrocities that have, you know, and it was a huge to-do, man. It was a huge, you know, and there were literally protests worldwide. So, and what we stated,
even in European countries, brother.
And what we were saying earlier was that and I just took it back, you know, 12, 13 years now with, or maybe not even that long with Trayvon Martin. But if we had picked up and reacted the way they reacted to George Floyd when Trayvon was killed, we might not even gotten to, as we say, we might not even made it to a George Floyd situation. But then again, just based on what happened in George Floyd's situation and where we're at now, that you know, that may not be the real deal either. I mean, because
it could have been now that it could have been now at this point that made such a subjugated impact that we would be in martial law. I mean,
one way or the other. That's right. That's right.
It could have impacted either way, is what I'm saying. And you even talking about like the brother in New York, the brother in St. Louis, all these brothers and sisters that's getting killed in these little podunk towns, man. Now New York is not so much that, but you're talking about these little cities and places like in St. Louis, man. St. Louis ain't no small place, but the outskirts, the place that this brother got openly shot walking down the street by that cop there,
right,
that wasn't no big city, man.
Right.
But the outcry from those people, from our people in those places, are vast, and they loud, and they tired, and they fed up of being hunted. So you got places like Nigeria where you think about, I think, what's the brother's name? Malcolm Brown? Up in New York that got choked out. Him and Trayvon situation kind of happened, galvanized in the same sense of time. Right,
the brother that was in front of the store.
And started selling cigarettes and videos or whatever it was.
CDs, DVDs, something. I remember.
And got choked out and killed.
Right. Alvin Brown, yeah, that's right.
These brothers in Nigeria marched down the street with signs. So my point is that we are being watched on more than one occasion. The situation of, like I said, European countries. It's funny for me to make that distinction, because there's so many black people in these so-called European countries, and has always been in these so-called European countries, that it's not even funny that we even look at them as being something other than black continents and countries. That it kind of boggles my mind when they worship the Black Madonna in every last one of their cathedrals and whatnot. So we have to really sharpen our tools, man, deepen our stance, and
Absolutely.
come to more terms with the love that we have for ourselves and who actually loves us, no matter what their doings in the past and how they have harmed us. We got to know who's on our side. We got to know that, you know, we got allies, and we have to move towards the betterment of all of us, you know, to make this situation work, man. We got to change our aspect of thought. We got to change our aspect of movement within our community. We have to get back to some Black Panther type institution of community activism. They wasn't just revolutionaries or trying to provoke. They was trying to protect. And it's a difference. It's a big difference in trying to provoke something to cause a reaction in battle or to fight or to cause conflict than it is to be in a mind state to protect, to stand up and protect your own, your babies, your women, you know, your children, your community, something that you can galvanize towards and have a ground to stand on. And that's what these brothers were trying to implement.
So we are nearing the time here on Black Conscious Voices. We have only opened up a door here
Small
that
crack.
that some could consider Pandora's box.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to our human rights, civil rights, and natural rights, when it comes to this whole process of, like I said, just a people that fear another people, that based on that fear that they have for these people, want to not only keep them confused, but as well enslave them, you know, and truly, you know, go as far as they can, you know, and up to and including taking lives maliciously. This has become one of the biggest calls to action that we could have possibly
in our time,
faced in our time.
Yeah.
And the call isn't to get up and go
Be
arm
ignorant.
yourself and go be a fool for this ridiculous system that we are being manipulated by. This is not the time to act in that manner. Now is the time to utilize our heads, to seek further knowledge, and to, you know, prayerfully receive as much wisdom from the Creator as we possibly can, in order to put our best foot forward, brother.
Yep. I mean, in that what you speak, you have to ask yourself the question: if we are being put to death so, and they are trying to look like us and dance like us and sing and rap like us and have hair like us and butts and lips and coloration of skin like us, what is the real purpose here? What is the real purpose here on more than just a small instance? I mean, what would one go through to take over another one's existence? What is the plan? I mean, why would you plan to do that? What is the purpose in doing that? It has to be something so magnanimous that they are willing to risk everything on this planet itself, to become the ones known as being the original. That's a hell of a question. That's a hell of a thought.
It is.
Because they not just their emotions and their actions and their rules and their laws and their structure of government is more than just surface based, you know. And if you don't really realize that or see that, like the question I just posed, then what is it for when it comes to adding the adaptation? trying to become what they see in us. We have to find out what that reason is, just like we have to find out why the attack is. Maybe that would help us functionally come to a better way of defending ourselves and a better way of raising our own selves to maintain whom and what we are and where we stand universally.
Yeah. Man, you said a mouthful right there, brother. You said a mouthful.
Yes, sir. So please wake up, please stand up, please help educate us, help us educate others, help us get to a point where we maintain what we were created to be. The ones of love, life, light, wisdom, and universality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to say that for all of the people that are listening on TuneIn and throughout the website, for all of the people that are checking us out live on the YouTube right now, and as well for the people across the world that have been chiming in and tapping into Black Conscious Voices, I want to thank y'all first and foremost right here, man, for joining us once again. And getting involved with these conversations. Next week we're gonna probably piggyback off this and drive the nail a little further so that it can be. It's hard for us to do 1 week shows because I mean truthfully the topics that we come up with
and
it's good stuff that really needs to stick around. We really need this information to linger in our heads and yours as well.
Exactly.
As long as possible in order to prayerfully bring about some call to action, man, because we're out of time. We're out of time.
And until we change, nothing or no one around us is going to change. When we change, everything has to change.
Absolutely.
Has to. The law of life, the law of the universe.
Absolutely. So
I'm with you, brother. I appreciate all of everyone who, takes their time to give us their attention because that is valuable.
Amen.
And well appreciated.
Absolutely. If you need to get at us, if you got some ideas for these shows, when it comes to Black Conscious Voices, you got some input on the shows, give us a call, 404-919-9363, or you can email us at info@atlwebradio.com. Also, you can go right to the website, atlwebradio.com, and drop your thoughts on the, there's a message button right there on the home page. Go in there and leave us your questions, thoughts, comments, criticisms, and all the rest of that good stuff on Black Conscious Voices. We welcome your opinions and your viewpoints here.
And it's okay for us to disagree.
It is definitely
but it's
okay.
not okay for us not to communicate.
Amen. I love it. I love that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Mike, you want to any last words, man, before we get out of here?
That's just about it, brother. Like I said, just please communicate.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not always right. Definitely don't know nothing. So I welcome any information, any knowledge. Like I said, it's always good to communicate. And there's nothing wrong with disagreeing.
Absolutely.
But if we don't communicate, then we'll never know how to move as a group, as a community, as love, in a shared idea and a shared motion that's going to galvanize what we are here to become.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So once again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in with us. Every Sunday from noon to 2, we will be right here, Black Conscious Voices. Feel free to, like I say, drop us a line, get at us, let us know what's on your mind. Follow the station at atlwebradio.com at ATL Web Radio on all social platforms. And just stay in tune, man. Stay in tune.
Yeah.
Stay in
Because if you
tune.
don't stay in tune, believe
You will be tuned out. Amen. Amen. Y'all got us here right live, man. Thank you once again for another good week here at Black Conscious Voices. People, tighten up. Let's tighten up.
peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
Say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's the color of one's skin and the beauty of one's eye. So many of us talk about dark skin, light skin, what is and what ain't within, but we overlook it all for the booty. You see, the physical has no bearing on the elegance and grace of the spiritual and mental one that's inside you, that creates the only one of you that it takes millions to make. I'm talking black and light, not white, the substance of nothingness, a blank page of anger and rage, giving you the belief of death